Yes, hello. Yeah, hello. Good morning. Yeah, welcome to today's lesson. This is lesson seven, lecture seven, if you like, of our unit four, leadership and management. My name is Patrick Justice. I'd like to welcome you to today's lesson. We'll kick off straight away by going looking at the previous lesson. Let's look at what we covered last lesson. Okay. During the last session, we looked at types of leadership and we covered three various theories. One from Tannenbaum and Schmidt's continuum of leadership style. We looked at Likert systems 1 to 4 and McGregor's theory X and theory Y. Do you recall? Do you have any questions from that? If not, what factors should leaders consider when choosing a leadership style? Okay, good. If you recall, we said that leadership style choice is based on the situation. It's situational. Based on the situation, that a good leader or effective leader will choose a style from the arsenal or from the arsenal of uh, styles. Okay, so yeah, that's quite correct. Yes, well done for that. All right, let's carry on and look at today's intent. Today's intent is look at the influence of leadership and management styles on organizational culture. By the end of this session, you'll become knowledgeable in the theories of leadership styles. We'll be looking at three different areas. One, understand the concept of organizational culture and its significance. We'll also look at the review uh, different types of organizational culture based on Charles Handy's and Deal and Kennedy's model. Okay. Next, we would finish up with analyzing the impact of culture on work ethics, organizational performance, and employer employee health. Okay, more of like well-being. Okay, so we're going to look at that. Is that clear on what we on what today's intent is all about? That is the learning outcome. By the end of the lesson, we'll look at this to see if we actually covered this sufficiently. Okay, right. So I'll go straight into defining organizational culture. So we can define organizational culture, okay, as referring to the shared values, belief, customs, behavior, and artifacts that characterize a group or society. It influences how members interact and work together. An organization is, we know, is a group of people that has a common goal. So two or more persons that come together like a business, okay? So it's said to be, you know, an organization. So the organization's own belief, their shared culture, customs, and behavior, tells us what sort of culture the or environment the organization operates. There are two components we look at under culture. One is tangible elements and intangible elements. Tangible elements would be physical things like office layout, dress code, formal policies. These are tangible because you can actually feel them, you can see them, you can touch them, so you can tell the formats, and that is referred to as tangible elements. Unlike the intangible elements, which are things like values, tradition, unwritten rules, these are not actually spelled out and they are usually inferred or perceived. Okay, so the tradition of an organization or its values, constitutes intangible elements. Okay, there are influences on culture that shapes perception and interaction. The way in which people interact and behave within the organization depends on the influence of the culture they have in that organization. Uh, Culture also creates a sense of identity and belonging, but can also lead to misunderstanding, okay, if not handled properly. So again, especially in today's world where we have a globalization, sometimes um, you know the identity is easier to see, belonging is easier to see, but can be misunderstood or misunderstood if not handled properly. For example, um, in a Muslim, say a Muslim lady having to wear the hijab or the covering the face in say McDonald's. So McDonald's, it's an here in the UK, people are expected to dress smart with trousers and shirt. But then, how would a lady, Muslim lady, fit in within that environment? So there could be some misunderstanding, which should be, of course, managed. I know that the Muslim ladies wear hijab, are now allowed to wear hijab as scarf on their head, but I don't know about the covering of you know the you know the mouth area or the nose area. So so these are examples of what you could find uh, as referring to culture within an area. But I'm sure uh, the misunderstanding can always be understood when it's discussed. So, question: in what ways can a strong organizational culture unite employees? Can it also create division? I'll give you 2 minutes. Look at this, and let me see your answer. You can also put your answer on the either on the Padlet wall, or you can share it in the chat. Okay, right. I'll give you a model answer. A strong culture unites employees through shared values, goals, and identity, fostering teamwork and loyalty. However, it can create division if certain groups or individuals feel excluded or pressured to conform. Okay, so these are obviously the division or misunderstanding that you can get within organization where we have multicultural existence, equality and diversity comes to play in there. Okay, and so the tangible um, you know uh, elements might play a role here. Usually things like dress code for the different sexes in the in different geographical areas. Okay, I hope that's quite clear enough. So in creating culture, one might need to create it, change the environment in a particular way. So when culture is to be introduced, you could follow this definition, this picture, this process where you assess the current state of culture. Then you establish the vision of the culture that you want to see. And obviously, there will be some blockers and issues and misunderstanding, which needs to be removed. Like I mentioned, so there's no misunderstanding. So that is removed and understood. And when that is done, then you can now establish the new practice, the new cultural practice. Okay. And then you communicate it uh, organization wide and reinforce it. And if possible, put it into uh, written document and policies. So it becomes a tangible element. Okay. Next, we look at Charles. Let's look at Charles Handy's model of cultural, organizational culture. There are four main types actually. The first two, as you can see, is power culture and role culture. Under power culture, this is a type of culture where power is centralized, okay, and a few decision makers. So it is the center that makes the decision on behalf of every other uh, branch or every other uh, member of the organization. For every power culture or decision, there is always pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages. So one advantage of centralized power, is where there's a need for quick decision making. There's no time to explore, and so the leaders, would make a decision on the spot. It can be effective, okay, during crisis. However, it can potentially lead to lack of transparency and accountability. Example, a startup of or small business where the founder drives the decision. So in a sole proprietor or one-man type business, he or she decides on how things should be done and makes the decision on behalf of the team. So that can be said to be power culture. Then we also have another type of culture called role culture. This can be defined as the name specify role. So everybody, all the employees know their roles and there's a procedure for carrying out particular activity. So the good thing there is that it can be predictable and it's efficient because everybody know what their role is and what they need to do and how they need to go about things. However, it may stifle creativity and innovation where people cannot, where employees or followers cannot, work independently or explore or be creative. Okay, so that type of environment is referred to as role culture. As you can see, in government agencies or large organizations or corporations, they operate in strict hierarchy. So the hierarchy is quite a steep organizational structure, and as such, power, floats downward that way, and the span of authority goes sideways along the same uh, levels. Okay. Then we look next at the other two of Charles Handy's model, which he referred to as task culture and person culture. With task culture, this is focused on project completion with flexible teams. So this type of culture is where employees are allowed to be flexible in carrying out their their roles, usually under where you have a project. So people can be creative and can be flexible, can work from remotely, whilst the project. So once they have a KPI, okay, key performance index to meet, people can go about, achieving that. Good thing about it is that it can be adaptable, it's flexible, and the people can be creative and innovative on the same path. However, it may lack structure and consistency because of the different ways or methods in which uh, employees will carry out their activities. So it will not be consistent in that manner. Example, consulting firms or project-based organizations would usually use tasks culture. A person culture is where the individuals, where power is centered, or not necessarily power, where a central person, you know, highly skilled person is valued in the organization. Good thing there is that obviously it encourages creativity and individuality. Okay, but then when that person is not there, it can lead to structure or lack of structure or accountability. If the person is ill or absent, then you know the business may not be able to function effectively. And if the person does leave, for example, then to replace them becomes more difficult. However, it's still quite used in a variety of places like agencies, creative agencies or artistic organizations still work with individuals in this person culture where individuals carry out certain aspects of the role or the activities within the organization. So let's look at question. Now let's look at which type of culture emphasizes defined role and procedure. Yes, okay, yeah, that's correct. Role, so role culture. Yeah, you're right. And that is from Handy's model, okay? This image gives you an idea, a pictorial representation of Handy's model, power culture, role culture, task, and person culture. Okay, so here we have Dill and Kennedy's model of culture. They have also four types of cultures, and refer to them as tough guy, macho culture, work hard, play hard, bet your company, and process culture. So what we find here is the tough guy macho culture is quite competitive and individualistic environment and can be a high stress environment where workers compete, you know, uh, to make the best sales. In an example of a high stake sales environment, so there's no cooperation. Everybody's competing against each other. So that's the type of environment. Business environment is referred to as tough guy macho. Okay, culture. Then we have the work hard, play hard. It emphasizes teamwork. So people work in teams and at the same time they enjoy. So, for example, many tech startups that foster a fun work environment. So where people may be allowed to uh, play music while they're working or dance where they're working. Um, where people work hard, they have a KPI. If they meet a KPI midweek, then they could take the rest of the week to work from home, for example, or on a Friday evening, while people have been working all day, hard all day, they may, the organization or the leader might order some takeaway or some pizza and some soft drinks for everybody to partake. So that sort of motivation uh, or motivatory kind of environment is referred to as where people work hard and play hard culture. All right. Bet your company culture focuses on high risk and long term strategy. For example, pharmaceutical companies engage in long term research. If you recall, during the COVID-19 in 2020, there was no cure, and many pharmaceutical companies around the world were all clamoring and researching to find a cure for the COVID. And here in the UK, we had was it Moderna and Pfizer and other countries like America, Russia, China. They all had their own type of drugs as well. So here you can bet your own company to get, you know, to be at the top or fall off, fall off the cliff. So depending on that, so it's a way of assuring that your organization can perform or outwit others. So if you outwit others, you enjoy all the benefits or you completely lose all. So it's a high risk long-term environment. Then we have the process culture, which values order and reliability over innovation. For example, manufacturing companies that prioritize consistency in operation. So you can liken this to maybe like Rolls Royce as a car manufacturing company and Toyota. So you find that Toyota may churn out 1,000 cars in a day, on their their factory because they use automation, they use robots to do quite a lot of processes, and so churn out as much vehicle by the end of the day as possible. Unlike but The Rolls Royce would only produce maybe 2 or 3 cars in a week because there's a precision, maybe even one in a week, because workers there, they produce based on orders. They don't just produce and keep for sale. They produce based on order which has been prepaid for example. So they go ahead and create those, those manufacture those cars. Okay, so that is a process culture, an example of a process culture. Okay, it can be quite expensive, but it just gives you the idea of what a process culture is all about. Now, think about this. How do you think a tough guy macho culture affects employee morale and collaboration? Is it positive or negative? All right, take 2 minutes. Let's see what you have. Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, you're right there. So what you're going to have there is it may boost performance and competition, but can lower morale and collaboration due to the stress, risk taking, and the lack of teamwork that exists in that environment. Okay, then we'll look at this graph. Okay, this is a 4 quadrant type graph where you have on the y-axis you have the feedback and reward as against the risk. So where the feedback and risk is low, you use process culture. Where the feedback is high and the risk is low, you can use work hard, play hard. And conversely, you can use where the feedback is low and the risk is high, you can use bet your company culture. And where the feedback is quite high and the risk is quite high as well, you use a tough guy macho. Okay. Now let's look at the importance and value of culture on work ethics, organizational performance, and health of the organization. So here, for ethics, culture shapes employee behavior, motivation, and expectations. So positive culture leads to enhanced productivity and retention. Clear expectations helps establish standards for performance. And so uh, it's based on ethics and the morals. And so behavior and motivation and expectations can be seen there. On the other hand, uh, the value of culture on organizational performance. Strong culture attracts and retains talent, boosts productivity, and improves stability. Positive employee attitude lead to greater engagement, commitment, teamwork, fostering collaboration, and enhancing overall performance. And for health of the organization, it can be supportive, in such a way that its employee mental states and physical well-being, it's being supported. The environment is good, and so you have less turnover and less absenteeism. Work-life balance can be promoted, and there be stress reduction. So all of these are examples of importance of culture and values, importance of culture, and or rather importance and value of culture. Case study: examine Google's workplace culture and its impact on employee satisfaction, creativity, and performance. So, how does Google culture embody empl- uh, elements of modern discussion? the models of discussion. Right. I'll let you look at that. Okay, give you model answer. Google promotes an innovative and supportive culture that values creativity, autonomy, and open communication. It reflects tax and person culture of Andes and the existence of work hard, play hard of Deal and Kennedy, okay, leading to high satisfaction and high productivity. Okay, so move on to the next. This is cultivation of learning culture in the organization. Okay, that's quite straightforward. Uh, go through compliance, transition, and learned culture. Okay, let's look at leadership and management styles. How does it influence culture? We're already familiar with a few of these leadership styles like autocratic leadership, democratic, transformational, and transactional. This if you recall from our first, second sessions. Okay, so for autocratic, it can foster a power culture. So you can liken autocratic leadership to power culture, where quick decisions can be hard but suppresses innovation. You can liken democratic leadership to task culture, which encourages collaboration and teamwork. Liken transformational leadership style to person culture, where value which values individual contribution and creativity and visionary. And then you can also liken transactional leadership to role culture, which emphasizes rules and the procedure for carrying out a particular activity. Question: how do different leadership styles affect development and maintenance of organizational culture? Take 2 minutes and let me hear from you. You can put your answers in the chat. Okay, model answer. Autocratic leaders create rigid, rule based culture, while democratic leaders encourage participation and innovation, and laissez faire leaders foster independence but may reduce uh, structure. Okay, laissez faire is more to do with the combination of transformational and transactional. So let's conclude here. What have we learned today? In this session, we explored organizational culture, which defines the shared value and the behavior that shapes employee interaction and performance in the workplace. We also examined different cultural types, such as that of Handy's power culture, role, task, and person culture, alongside Deal and Kennedy's tough guy, macho, work hard, play hard, bet your organization or bet your company, and process culture, each influencing performance in unique ways. We then also compared and related leadership styles uh, as they highlight the different forms of cultures as leaders set expectations and guide behavior. And finally, we looked at we said that although culture change is challenging, it can be achieved with strong leadership, clear communication, and employee engagement, which ultimately impacting on company adaptability and long-term success. Do you agree with this? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes, that's what we've done so far. That's good. All right. So I will have final quiz for you here. Now, name one advantage of power culture. One advantage. Yes. Yes, it is quick for decision making and strong central control. Okay, that's good. Secondly, what type of culture emphasizes individual creativity? What type of culture emphasizes individual creativity? Yes, person culture or innovative culture. Good. And finally, how can culture impact employee health? How can culture impact employee health? Yep, by being by displaying support. Yes, by supportive culture where it reduces stress and burnout. So, while a toxic culture increases anxiety and absenteeism. So you're 100% correct. Employee health can be impacted by culture where it is supported, it reduces stress and burnout, and otherwise it can be uh, it can lead to a toxic environment where absenteeism and anxiety would increase. Well done. I'll give you a homework, or you could start this. We have a few minutes left, so you can commence with this and finish up as homework and submit via email or Padlet wall to me. It says here, write a reflective piece analyzing the organizational culture of a company you are familiar with. Discuss how the culture influences employee behavior, motivation, and overall performance. Okay, that's what you gotta do. Let me know how that. In fact, let me give you some sort of guide support on that, so that it could help. So here it will just be a short guide. What you need to do is choose a company, for example, Apple, Tesco, or your own workplace. Describe its culture, values, leadership styles, communication, and teamwork. Reflect on how this culture shapes employee uh, motivation, behavior, and performance in the workplace. For example, innovation at Apple drives commitment and satisfaction. So, our advice in this occasion, you're all working, so liken this to your own workplace. So, describe what sort of culture you have in your own workplace. Okay? What is the values? What is the leadership style from your experience now of having learned a few of these qualities? Communication and teamwork. How do you guys communicate? What is the team spirit in your workplace? So reflect upon this and write some sort of write up, a kind of a passage. Maybe one page is sufficient. Okay, and then submit via email to me or upload on the Padlet wall. Okay. All right. References here. These are usual reference books you can look at. You can also look up on the net. Okay. So finally, thank you for your participation. If you have questions I'd like to answer, I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you. And, that's the email you can reach me. And so I would like to say thank you for your attendance.